Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hi, this is Shelley. I just want to let you know that the sound came out less than good quality this week, but I'm aware of it and I will try and make it better next week. Thank you for listening.
Hi, and welcome to the November 18th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. And I'm your astrologer in Orlando, Florida, Shelley Overton. I want to welcome you to this week's podcast. We're going to go over what's going on in the sky and see what we can talk about a little bit with the moon and Venus today. So let's just go over where all the planets are for right now. We've got Mars at 12 degrees Scorpio, Mercury at 20 Scorpio, and the Sun is at 26 Scorpio, opposite the Moon at 19 Taurus, and Uranus at 12 degrees of Taurus. We've got Saturn at 8 degrees of Aquarius, rounding out a T-square with the other planets I just mentioned. We've got Jupiter at 23 Aquarius, and then Neptune is at 20 Pisces, Chiron at 8 degrees Aries, Venus at 11 Capricorn, and finally Pluto at 24 Capricorn. So there's a very large amount of planets in Earth right now. We've got a lot of water, and then just a couple with Saturn and Jupiter in air. So that means that the majority of what we're feeling today is going to be based on believe it or not, the Aquarian energy is fairly strong and has a fairly strong voice in the heavens right now, because it is Saturn, which is digging heels in, and the planet that really allows us to create something lasting, and Jupiter, which is a planet of expansion and transformation. So the two of them together in Aquarius really bring out a new knowledge of what's going on in the world, a new understanding, a clarity, moving forward with enlightenment and awareness, basically. And then they are both challenging Mars, Mercury, Sun in Scorpio. But Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and Pluto is in positive aspect to the Sun right now. Mercury is only 4 degrees off an exact sextile, and Mars at 12 degrees is an exact sextile to Venus. So that all helps with creating structure, but creating structure around new monetary systems or monetary systems in general. There is an energy coming in that helps us create something physical and a change with our material goods. With that being said, my parents bought a new vehicle this week, and it happened, I looked it up, it was on Tuesday at 3:30 Eastern. That rules joint material goods, joint possessions, joint finance. And that also falls in my father's house of material goods and joint finances, and close to my mother's as well. So it's very interesting that that event happened. But that's the kind of energy we'll see this week. We'll be like, okay, this has to change. I'm ready. This situation with this material item, car or house, or anything else that helps us out, can be phones, anything that is in the material realm that is utilized because of the Capricorn energy, or desired, or value to ourselves and others, can be really renovated and shifted. And so as we shift our energy, those material goods around us are in need of a shift. And having Pluto at last degrees of Capricorn, it's really the end of the material cycle of something. So we'll see that, whether it's outlived its usefulness or just outlived its material relevance, in other words, it's breaking down, it's degrading, that energy is really right now in challenge. And so we're going to see that shift, but it's a positive shift because the sextile is a positive aspect. It's, as I've said multiple times, my view of the most positive aspect of the zodiac, because it's a cooperative energy. And you can say, what about conjunctions? And yes, conjunctions are very potent, and they are actually really good at times, but they can be really upsetting at times as well. And for that point to be made, Mercury joining Mars which happened in the last week or two. Mercury is our thought, our communications, and Mars is aggressive and assertive and can be at times violent and, um, you know, degrading when it's coupled with Mercury. So sometimes that conjunction isn't always a positive conjunction. When we see major planets conjunct, such as Saturn joining with Pluto, which was last year in January, it can create an enormous shift of energy and it digs in deep. Saturn's harder side is that it challenges us and challenges the direction we're going. And Pluto wants us to look at our psychology and will bring up things that are in our deep recesses of our mind. So the two together really challenged us in what we could control. And that happened at the beginning of the pandemic. So yeah, we have that energy. So when we get conjunctions, yes, they can be very positive, such as Jupiter and Mars joining together to create more fortune and taking action with fortune. And then there are the negative sides of things. So I think overall, a sextile is a very cooperative energy, even when it may seem the planets involved are not necessarily cooperative. They generally fall within cooperative signs because we have water and earth or fire and air, and they are in relation to each other 60 degrees apart. So we will have cooperative elements of the signs working together, again, fire and air and earth and water, and the planets will be in those signs that are cooperative via those elemental influences. So yeah, Mars, Mercury, Sun joining with Venus and Pluto. Venus is an energy of women. It is going to be a placement that brings out women's stories, especially as she approaches Pluto. So it is a placement that is going to be significant because Pluto in late degrees of Capricorn means he is digging in deep. He is really trying to see what has not been revealed by bringing it out. As he gets to Aquarius, that energy of Aquarius is starting to influence the Pluto placement. And then Venus joining Pluto, which is the deeper, darker psychology of women that we have to see, which a lot of times is not feeling good enough, not feeling valued enough, especially in society, which Pluto and Capricorn is a very societal placement. Pluto in the Saturn ruled sign of Capricorn answers to Saturn, which Saturn will want to create the structure. So Pluto's looking to create structures in Capricorn and reevaluate structures because he's digging deep psychologically, going deeper into our own awareness of self, into our psychology, into what we feel we need to control. Why are we controlling it? And who's controlling us? And so as Venus gets to that Pluto energy, which is going to be this month, let's just look up when she gets there. On the 7th of December, Venus is exact to the energy of Pluto. So not only is there going to be that deeper psychology expressing out, but keep in mind that also Mars, being a slower moving planet of the faster moving planets, he's one of the slowest. He's going to be getting to later degrees of Scorpio, still in sextile and still answering to Pluto as Venus joins with Pluto. So it is a tremendously forthright, action-oriented energy that promotes women and promotes taking ownership of the feminine energy as a power source and as a powerful entity in society. So see that coming about towards the end of November, which we are approaching rapidly, and then the beginning of December. Yes, I know yesterday or this week earlier, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was demeaned by a member of the House, and she posted about a 16-minute video this morning basically challenging it because of the structure and system of the House and how you're allowed to speak and what is not acceptable in the House. She was not able to actually defend her point of view with specific words, including the word racism, because of the structure of how the House looks at the words that are spoken. And so she defended herself on social media, and I would recommend you go look at that. I saw it on Instagram, but it was probably also on Twitter. And I know she posted a version on her website, her own website. But we see this coming in, especially here in America, where that's the politics that I watch and what I observe as an American. But, we have a lot of strong women associated with the top houses, the top chairs of politics, including Kamala Harris, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Nancy Pelosi. So, and then Jill Biden, I might even venture to say, is a strong feminine energy associated with the presidency, being a supported entity and, quite honestly, her own woman within that role. So we see this emerging in our society as we go into December. And because Venus will be going retrograde over Pluto and direct again over Pluto, this is a very significant storyline we will be getting for the duration of that particular transit. Now, Venus goes retrograde on the 19th of December of this year. And I'm just going to do a little quick research here. She goes retrograde all the way back to 11 degrees. So what is 11 degrees? It's the 18th of November, which is the day I am putting this up. So absolutely, we are going to be hearing more about this story. It's probably going to be a fairly large story over the course of the next month and a half. As we go into January, of course, Venus doesn't go direct until the 29th or 28th of January. And then, of course, she has to go all the way back to the degree she's retrograding at, which is around 26 degrees. Let's just see, 26, 29 of Capricorn, almost all the way back to the very end degree. But I find it tremendously interesting that 25 degrees is the degree of Pluto, which is right where she retrogrades. So when she goes all the way back to 26 degrees of Capricorn, let me see here, where Venus, where are you, dear? She won't get there until the beginning weeks of March, and that is like the 2nd of March. So we're going to have this storyline of women in politics and women in power. Remember, Pluto represents Scorpio and is the position of government, politics. Government as a structure is Capricorn. Pluto as a sign, as a planet, Scorpio, Pluto, is politics, politicians, legalities, lawyers, all of that. So it's kind of the machination of politics. So we will absolutely be seeing this rise of the feminine structure within politics. And it may very well push, in America, push the political agenda to its brink of how we look at women in government, in power, in positions of power within jobs and roles of authority. And that's honestly what it's meant to do, because Capricorn's a feminine sign. Pluto at last degrees is really pushing for understanding of what was hidden with that structure. So that's another reason why we've been seeing the minority agenda and the Black agenda coming out as something that has to be looked at. Definitely this push between now and March 23rd of 23, when Pluto goes into Aquarius, is going to be really significant. So next year, we also have a Mercury retrograde right at the beginning of the year, and that happens at 10 degrees of Aquarius, and it goes all the way back, interestingly, also to 24 degrees of Capricorn. So remember last year, we had the Saturn Pluto at that degree when we had the beginning of, was it last year? Why does it seem so much longer ago? 2020 was only last year, it's 2 years ago at this point. But at the beginning of 2020, we had that Saturn Pluto joining up in Jupiter. Very tremendous energy to shift our awareness within society, within the structure in America of our government and governmental forces. And then this year as well, I think maybe I'm off by a year. I don't know. I know that there was a significant 2020 energy, but even it seems so long ago. And that's probably why it seems longer ago. I think it was this year. How does it seem so long ago? Probably because of the pandemic, but yeah, it was this year. Oh my goodness. So yeah, there you go. It seems so long ago. Next year, which is 2022, is going to have this interesting retrograde of the Mercury energy and the Venus energy joining at that Pluto point. So Mercury, communications, ideas, awareness, teaching and education, women in education. What I foresee, and I don't really see it yet, but I'm going to predict this, is that in January, there will be a teachers union and possibly, potentially even healthcare workers really taking a stand. And traditionally, nurses are a feminine role. That is changing. I've seen a lot of men going into that profession lately. And I find that really wonderful that we are balancing it out with the yin and yang energy of men and women in care providing roles in society. But because of the Venus Mercury, which is again gender neutral, we're going to have maybe traditionally feminine roles go over more to men as we see that mercurial entity influencing it. Pluto, the psychology of what we deem to be masculine and feminine, because Mercury is typically androgynous, we now see that flattening of the playing field. Mercury, Venus, Pluto, psychology around women and their role in society, their role in the value to others. And so it's definitely, I've got chills around this. It's definitely going to be a really strong storyline with the retrograde energy coming in, seeing those stories where we have a challenge, we have a going back over and a readjustment period, and then a moving forward of a culmination of the finishing story around that adjustment. And it all is right around the last degrees of Pluto with women, Mercury. So healthcare service, education, and also the role of women in power, which is the Pluto value system triggered as we come into the beginning of next year. So look for those stories very big in society everywhere in the world, because of course those conjunctions and retrogrades are going to be affecting everybody all around the world. So yeah, Venus right now, look at the stories going on this week specifically, because those are going to be the stories that will go through this retrograde period and the readjustment period that we will see. As Mercury retrogrades in Aquarius, also, there's going to be a Mercury retrograde across Saturn. And that is the systematization of Aquarian themes. And that is cryptocurrency, the flights to other planets, the satellites that are coming around the Earth now as are being put out into society. I was reading and looking at an article. I don't know what you would call it, more like a storyline on social media around Elon Musk and some autism stuff on YouTube that I was looking at. I saw a content creator this week on YouTube go to a therapist, and they were dealing with their child being diagnosed with autism. And it turned out that the husband also was diagnosed in that session with autism. And the information given about his parents leaned towards an autistic outlook. And I was thinking to myself as I was watching this, astrology very clearly shows how that can be with Aquarian energy. And I find it really interesting because autism is definitely Aquarian energy, because it's an alternate way of integrating energy in our space as material beings here on this earth. And so if you're looking to the astrology of autism, it would be Aquarius. And what we consider traditionally mental health is, I'm trying to remember the term the lady used on this particular podcast or vlog. It was neuronormal or traditional neurological, something along those lines, neurotraditional. Anyway, how we look at our integration neurologically and our cognizance of the experience of being human, of the experience of electrical energy and emotional energy and the physical movement through time and space. I find it really fascinating. And then autism, in my view as an astrologer, has been coming in over the course of a few decades. Definitely more recently with children we see it, but I do think that particular disorder, and I use it loosely as an astrologer because I feel absolutely we are seeing evolution. We are seeing behaviors come in that are not the norm. And I can liken that to many different factors, including how we animate the body as energy beings. But when you look at it from an astrological standpoint, we're integrating new ways and quantum ways of experiencing life on this planet. And so, in this blog that was on YouTube, they realized that it was generational and that these behaviors typically associated with autism can maybe potentially be seen as behavior patterns through other lines in people's ancestry. And so I guess I just want to introduce that idea because we are coming into this Aquarian age. We are coming into a time where we're going to absolutely see that traditional ways of integrating social structures and life on this planet are not going to be necessarily the norm going forward. And part of that is children born under Aquarius or strong Aquarian influences of planets within our own personal charts. And so I saw that, and then I thought, because Elon Musk now exhibits, according to some different researchers and points of view online, he exhibits some autistic temperaments. And so again, what is his chart? I would really love to go over Elon Musk's chart, and maybe we'll do that next week or coming up soon on this podcast, because I find it really fascinating when, especially currently with the climate of Pluto in Capricorn and how we've seen what has gone on in society with everything we've gone through and what's going on in politics with everything we've gone through in the collective in other countries with their politicians and their leaders. How we integrate going forward this energy of Pluto as it shifts into a new ideology and a new energy, that is very valid, very relevant to what we're going to be going through in a quantum sense. We're going to be discovering that energy and matter and scientific norms are being challenged by a broader perspective as Pluto immerses itself and dives deep into the Aquarian energy, because that's going to be what Pluto will be exploring over the next 30 years. I looked it up this week and found out that once Pluto's in Aquarius, it doesn't change signs into, let me see, I think it was 2046. It enters Pisces. We've got decades of Pluto in Aquarius, and we have decades of Pluto in Pisces, which will bring us even out of the technological mindset and into an emotional and deep emotional connectedness that just this morning I was reading online about moving into a more telepathic way of understanding other people. And so we won't necessarily rely on video phones and video machines and Zoom and things like that, but we're going to just tune our energies and our minds into other people and where they're at. And I absolutely believe this because I know it's being done now. And I know mediums and psychics out there now that I can even share with you who are doing this. One is a lady named Venus Andrecht, she used to be on Hay House, and now she's on infloradio.com, which is her daughter's platform on the internet. Anyway, looking at what's coming up, I'm going to kind of take a quick whiplash left turn back into the week, because I have kind of talked about the Venus energy that I really wanted to get to this week. And now I want to talk about the moon in Taurus, which is going to be the full moon coming up here this week on Friday. And so just if you get this tonight, if I can edit this by the end of today and you see this tonight, Thursday, today is about getting control in a mindset of your mindset and of your moods. And the dogma is challenged, Venus trying to Uranus. So how we look at women is going to be really challenged. And again, like I said, that's the Venus energy through the beginning of next year, looking to create a tremendous shift of ideology and ownership of how we look at women and the feminine mystique or the feminine storyline. I kind of say to myself a lot of times, I don't know if I'm a feminist, which takes with it all the dogma of trying to be a feminine person under the auspices of a masculine world. That's how I've interpreted it as a child of the feminist era. I like the idea of femininism, which is embracing the feminine way of looking at life, an intuitive way of looking at life. Not denying that I like beautiful things or that I am a feminine person in my outlook or romantic or, the typical feminine looking traditional ideas, but embracing that and knowing that that doesn't, just because it's traditionally seen as the weaker sex, doesn't mean that it is the weaker sex, that we have a tremendous amount to contribute to the social storyline in this world by embracing things that are softer, by embracing our the idea that we bring in an intuitive sense to our interactions. And that isn't weak, that is extremely insightful, quite honestly. And I've grown up being an extremely sensitive person. I really enjoy seeing some of the memes on social media right now that basically say, am I extra or are you basic? Like, it gives a new twist to the idea that we are all people having experiences. And I think that instead of looking at feminists as aggressive and trying to take away masculinity, that we are really feminine in our point of view and embracing something that isn't necessarily a strong point in our mindsets in the society, but we are trying to balance between yin and yang, and that it doesn't have to be women trying to be like men, but capable of doing things that are beyond their normal assigned gender roles, and yet also bringing to the table the feminine side if we so choose to express that out. I find it really fascinating that definitely a child of Aquarius, Harry Styles, dressed up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz unapologetically in his shows called Harry Ween on Halloween this year, and did the whole show in a blue gingham dress with a big red bow on his head. I find that really amazing because he didn't negate his sense of personhood because he chose to dress that way in front of many people on social media, being out there in the world for multiple hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people to see. And it challenges gender roles. And I find it interesting that if you go back in time, you look at history and see men wore big powdered wigs and high heels, and jewelry wasn't and has not been assigned just to women. So I think it's really time that we look at our restrictive mindsets when it comes to society and really recognize that we are changing as a collective. We're evolving before our very eyes right now. And having the moon at 27 degrees of Taurus tomorrow, Friday night, which is tomorrow from my time, but you may be listening to this in the past, 27 degrees of Taurus. So it's a challenge to everything that's opposite and squaring to it. So of course it's challenging the opposition of Scorpio. So if you've got strong Scorpio planets in your chart, and everyone has an area of Scorpio in their charts, we are having the challenge to our personal values. And we're seeing at this time, there is a synergy going on between Mercury, Sun, and Mars with Moon, Uranus, and this full moon in Taurus is definitely going to dig in deep with the trine to Pluto at that 24 degrees of Capricorn. It's a trine. So it is going to be a potential. I even mentioned this last week. There was, I think, over the course of last week, a potential for explosions with the Uranus energy and Saturn around chemicals. And we did see in Liverpool, there was an explosion right in front of a hospital of a car bomb, I think, that went off. And so it can be explosive energy as long as you're dealing with Scorpio and Plutonic energy. It is about bombs and explosions. And that's the fastest way that we end up getting over whatever restrictions we find and frustrations that come out from that Plutonic energy. Wherever Pluto is, wherever we have planets in the sign of Scorpio, aka Mars and Scorpio right now, we're going to have a certain amount of energetic frustration over a deep intuitive knowing what is of integrity and where we should be going. And because it is the collective, it is Pluto, it is Capricorn, it is Scorpio, it recognizes in society, in the collective mindset. And then again, Neptune. I haven't even addressed the trine of Neptune to Mars, Mercury, and the Sun. That also adds that deeper emotional knowingness and an intuitive quality to the energies going on right now. And then the sextile of Neptune to the moon being full. So it's a tremendously emotional, passionate time with this full moon. It is about money. It is about value of the human life force, value in integral energy that is within each one of us, and the value that we have as individuals and in the collective, which is Scorpio, which is Pluto, which is Neptune. So we are really dealing this week with that deep sense of where's my value and do I have a personal value? I can tell you right now, money and monetary systems are going to be affected. And because we have that square of Taurus to Jupiter and to the Aquarian planets, it's about letting go and detaching from value assigned to basically material goods that don't last forever and really do not have the deep meaning that the integral energy each life force has. So that is the ultimate bottom line of the story of these planets and their positions with the Aquarian energy. Venus, Pluto, Scorpio, Mars, Mercury, Sun for ego, Mercury for how we think, Mars for how we act. In the sign of Scorpio, answering to Pluto in changing of the structure and the system. Aquarian, Jupiter, Saturn really wanting to have a voice of the collective and the underdog, of environment, of our work environment, of our mental space that supports us. Moon, emotional bondedness with our home, our mothers, the nurturing that we feel, how we express ourselves within our own home environment. It's all very integrated this week, and it's in half the sky, falling between most of the outlying areas of the sky, the Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and just a hint of the interpersonal versus that all transpersonal, which is Aries and Taurus. We are integrating into the sense of how we feel as people while looking to the greater collective of how we are as a society on this planet Earth. So lots of big value judgments and value assignments going on this week. If you do the full moon ritual, you are releasing your sense of what you value in material goods and possessions. It is potentially a very strong time of allowing a release of an identity associated with your material goods. I've been going through that myself. There are some positives because Neptune is in positive sextile to this energy of the full moon. We are going to be seeing a release of sentimentality associated with the material goods. So that can also relate to the essence of hoarders and why they can't let go of things, because I absolutely readily admit I have a mentality of assigning sentiment to the material goods I buy. I have this very strong Saturn in Pisces at 0 degrees that really allows me to take and photograph an emotional moment in time and assign those emotions to things that I purchase. And so it's difficult for me letting go of cars, letting go of furniture, not only that, as an artist, I have in the past rescued items like people rescue pets. I rescue furniture and I give it a renovation and a new life in other environments. So my chart is really strong in this particular full moon, and I have Jupiter right where the full moon is at. So it's going to be a release, a transformation. And the positivity is that we have Neptune and the idea of dreams coming in to support the full moon release of the material goods. And potentially very strongly, if you release it, you bring in a whole new storyline that can give you a new way of looking at the material goods. And so, anyway, I'm trying to morph this podcast into something a little bit more intuitive and not quite so rote by the information I have in my book. And I can tell you, as I did that this week, I definitely got some channeling going on. And I really like the feeling that I get when I tell you what comes through intuitively and what I channel through from the universe and my guides and spirits and angels that help me with this podcast. So that's why it's called Angelic Zodiac. And you can visit me at angeliczodiac.com to book a reading. And I want to thank you for joining me every week. I really enjoy this time I have with you. And if you care to share it, please do so. I'm on Apple iTunes. I have YouTube. If you're listening to this on iTunes or SoundCloud or any of the other places like Amazon and Google Play, please do check out the YouTube channel. I've also got videos on my artwork there. And go to shelleyoverton.com if you would like to see my artwork, or even Dotted Sky, which probably ultimately will be the overarching name of all of my endeavors, just not yet. So anyway, take care. Have a good Thanksgiving week. And I can't tell you just now if I'm going to be here or do a replay of a past podcast for Thanksgiving. Probably do a podcast earlier in the week and get it up before Thanksgiving for all of you who are off for Thanksgiving. Anyway, take care. Have a lovely week and enjoy your family. Try not to get too bent out of shape. Know that we are releasing. Know that it is a big time of emotional value system evaluation. And so you're going to see that reflected on Thanksgiving and being around friends and family. But that's all for this week. Take care. See you soon. Bye. So that was within blah, blah.
Hi, this is Shelley. Thank you for joining us this week. To contact me for a private reading, go to angeliczodiac.com under the Readings tab. Background music was provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Music provided on show-by-show basis will be credited within the body of the show. For more info on my art, go to shelleyoverton.com. That's SHELLEYOVERTON.com. To purchase my ebook, Learn Astrology, you can find it at angeliczodiac.com, including discounts. Be sure to check back next week and subscribe through iTunes at AstroEnergy Astrology Show.